Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into another YouTube live show. Tonight, I am John Kurtz. Got to be honest, everybody. A little bit of a ho-hum week in the Big 12. And that's why, to me, the most interesting game that happened actually had nothing to do on the surface with the Big 12. But when you start digging, there are some potential ramifications here, okay? So that is why the video is titled the way that it is. Thank you for the compliment on that in the chat. Very nice of you. We'll get into just exactly how all this configures itself together. If you've seen the GIF that is very popular of Charlie from It's Always Sunny trying to connect everything on the big board where he's trying to solve a crime, how does Utah play into Kalani Sitake and UCLA? I promise I'll connect the dots for you, okay? Speaking of questions about Utah now, how good is Utah? Struggled a little bit at Wyoming for a minute. Okay, but it's not even so much that game that I'm concerned with. It's Utah's best win being UCLA. What exactly does that mean right now? What about Texas Tech? Okay, Red Raiders continue to just blast people. Baron Morton is throwing touchdowns all over the place like he is on a personal hell-bent mission to make me look like an idiot. But yet, what happens when they take that show on the road? What happens when they go up against a much more at least road battle-tested team and a better defense in Salt Lake City next week? We'll find out. College Game Day won't because they will not be there. Instead, they'll be hanging out in Miami Gardens to watch the walking corpse that is Billy Napier take on Miami. Okay, ESPN did it again. We'll talk about all of that. And I spelled West Virginia wrong. Thank you, Bracket Cat. I spelled West Virginia wrong on the graphic, but that's just because I was so damn excited to talk about the Mountaineers. I watched the entire backyard brawl, okay? And I have a lot of thoughts here about what this means for the future of West Virginia football. Mostly, I'm just excited for that fan base to get to enjoy everything that they did on Saturday, okay? So congratulations to West Virginia, but what does it mean long-term for the Mountaineers? We'll talk about that. Thank you, everybody, as you file in. Thank you for being here tonight. Reminders, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can leave a super chat by clicking the $ below the chat box if you want to guarantee that your question or comment makes it on tonight. Also, just if you want to support the show, I appreciate everybody that is able to do that. But even if you can't, just a like and a subscribe is great, and make that chat lively. Make that chat lively, my friends. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to drop me a line there. If you're not watching this live, and I'll kick off the next show with your question or comment. So again, John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo in order to do that. And subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. 5,100 plus Big 12 fans are subscribed already. It's ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com to get subscribed to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. And with that, we are off and running tonight. We are off and running. Okay, so BYU didn't play on Saturday, right? But yet somehow BYU still winds up being the most interesting topic in essence here on the show today. My computer's not cooperating with me here. Okay. It was a fairly ho-hum week in the Big 12, to be honest. BYU off, ISU, Iowa State, sluggish. But fine. You know, I mean, I think Utah and Iowa State probably fit into the same sort of category. Sluggish, but fine. Winning on the road against G5 teams in weird atmospheres and environments. It's fine. Just survive in advance. West Virginia was the highlight. They did get a hell of a win. Utah and Texas Tech, they take care of business. So they set up the best version that we could possibly get of this matchup next week. And Arizona State, you know, hell of a highlight from Jordan Tyson. They take care of business as well. But I'm telling you, the most interesting game in the Big 12 this week took place outside of the conference. So BYU was off this week, but that doesn't mean that Utah didn't still find a way to needle the Cougars, okay? Yeah, we've got Holy War controversy here. Maybe not controversy, but we've got the Holy War creating some headlines. Ripple effects are pretty fascinating on this one, okay? So BYU fans, listen up. I would argue the most interesting result of the weekend of the Big 12 actually wound up being UCLA, New Mexico, for a couple of reasons. One, it raises the question, what exactly is going on with Utah? Is Utah's week 1 win over UCLA something we should value nearly as much anymore? Look, it's worth something. They went in there and pummeled another opponent on the road. And as evidenced by the fact that I just mentioned the Iowa State game in Jonesboro and exactly what just happened to Utah this week at Wyoming, like that's not always a given that is going to happen. But, this had people like Josh Pate putting Utah in the top 10 at number 8. And now UCLA lost 35-10 to New Mexico and fired its coach, right? So Deshaun Foster is out just 3 games into his second season, which is pretty crazy. But what do we make of Utah now? Okay, it's not a great win. It's a solid win. Does that translate to they can go beat this team that looks like the freaking Monstars that is Texas Tech, that has just been blasting people through the first 3 weeks of the season? So there's that part of it that makes it very fascinating. If we're just thinking about the context of not only the Big 12 race, but what we have on tap next week with that huge top 20 matchup now between Utah and Texas Tech in Salt Lake, that Big Noon kickoff will be there for. Big Noon Saturday crew will all be there. So that's one discussion, and I will talk a little bit more about that later on in the show. But how does this all affect BYU? Well, I think you all can see the parallel now between the result of that game, New Mexico just smoking UCLA, being the final straw, the nail in the coffin for Deshaun Foster. It's now opened up that job. And you can't escape coaching carousel season. You can't escape conference realignment season. Hide your children, hide your wife. You just can never get away from it. We are in week 3. It's September 14th of the college football season, and yet here it is. And I'm having to scan hot boards for Big 12 coaches. There were 2 Big 12 coaches mentioned for UCLA, by the way. It's not just going to be Kalani Sitake. I just want to mention, though, that it's not only the New Mexico game that got Deshaun Foster fired. It's been a season in which they also lost at UNLV, and they got completely destroyed opening night by Utah, a team that, if you're UCLA's athletic director, you may be looking at this like, well, this Utah team was 5-7 last year. They just marched right in, punked us 43-10. Like, what? We have no fans. Now there are going to be even fewer fans coming to the rest of the games. And then they go out and lose to back-to-back G5 teams, the second of which was by 25 points at home, right? That set the wheels in motion, okay? So if you're doing the Charlie Day on the board, trying to connect the yarn and the tacks everywhere, I mean, that's what it is. Isn't that the Holy War at its finest? Like, Utah starts this whole thing by kicking off UCLA's season with a total thud at the Rose Bowl in front of the home fans when there already may have been doubts about Deshaun Foster. I mean, they just make Nico Iamaleava's life a living hell. And now that situation's not working out very well at all. And it gets to the point where that snowballs on UCLA so fast that they're firing the coach in week 3. And now you start bringing up hot boards. You start getting lists of candidates from ESPN and The Athletic. And bam, there's Kalani Sitake's name. I mean, to be honest, a little bit of 5D chess from Utah there, perhaps, right? That's what makes rivalries great. If you're curious what was said here, so it's ESPN and The Athletic. As I mentioned, this is two sources. This is not random tweet on the internet says Kalani Sitake could be the next head coach at UCLA. This is The Athletic and ESPN. If you're curious about the order in which they brought these coaches up on ESPN, Kalani Sitake was listed as the number 2 candidate. There was no specific author of the story, by the way, if you're curious. Like, this wasn't directly attributed to like Thamel or anything like that. Just said ESPN staff, number 2 behind Tony White. Okay, so ESPN lists Tony White first. He's a UCLA alum. He's now the Florida State defensive coordinator, very highly thought of in college football circles. He's going to get a job at some point. He was number 1, but number 2 is Kalani Sitake. And here is what was said. It said, quote, he's fairly established at his alma mater and would need some assurances beyond the Big Ten membership to leave a good situation in Provo. But Sitake, also in his 10th year at BYU, might want to restart his clock. Sitake knows the West Coast and California recruiting scene. It also said Sitake is 74-43 as an FBS coach and would bring an identity of physicality and toughness to Westwood. All right, so to react to that, if I'm UCLA, that's exactly the type of thing that I would want and need. Like, UCLA needs somebody who's going to bring physicality, toughness, and just substance. Kalani Sitake's a guy about substance, man. That is a substantive coach, not flash, which is what I know everybody would say, well, it's LA and UCLA. Come on, man. You need a little flash. No, you don't. UCLA needs a grinder. UCLA needs someone who's going to get in there and be tough and bring in 3-star prospects and coach them up and create a culture of toughness, because that is the last thing. It's the furthest thing from what UCLA is at the moment. So I would love the hire if I were UCLA. I would definitely target Kalani Sitake if I were UCLA. I will give you my opinion in just a moment on what I would think about this if I were Sitake, okay? First, I want to drop in, this is what The Athletic said. So The Athletic had Kalani Sitake as the third coach mentioned on their list. Number 1 was D'Anton Lynn, which that was the vibe I got early on would probably be the leading candidate that's going to get pushed the most here. He's USC's defensive coordinator. He passed up the Penn State defensive coordinator job this offseason to stay in LA. So clearly he's a guy that likes LA. He's a UCLA alum too, I believe. So D'Anton Lynn, somebody that could get that job. Number 2, and more on this in a moment, number 2 on the list from The Athletic was Dave Aranda at Baylor. Okay, so yeah, I've got thoughts on that. But first, let's finish the Kalani Sitake piece of this, okay? So what Bruce Feldman, this is Bruce Feldman writing here, what he said about Kalani Sitake in The Athletic was, quote, he's done a terrific job leading the Cougars. Last year, Sitake's team went 11-2. He's a proven winner with strong West Coast ties, and he knows how to build tough teams, something that will make him attractive. Would he leave a good job in the Big 12 with strong resources and a lot of momentum for what appears to be one of the shakier situations in the Big 10? I'm not so sure. Well, that's a pretty good take, Bruce Feldman, because I'm not so sure either. In fact, why? Why? The only thing that I will say here is I don't personally know Kalani Sitake. If he has a crazy affinity for LA or there's something family related that would make that appealing to him, then that's something I don't have knowledge of. But if I'm just operating on what is widely available, what we know about football and the situations here, I have no idea to go take this job. The only tangible football related argument here that you could come up with, my humble opinion, would be the ultimate ceiling, the pinnacle ceiling at both jobs, simply because UCLA is in the Big Ten, simply because they are based in LA. I suppose there is a higher ceiling at that job if you were to be able to reach it, just because of those factors. But what are the odds that you're able to climb the ladder that high? That is a shaky ladder. You're not getting up there. The building may be taller. It may be a skyscraper and be totally way up there, but you do not have the tools to climb up that. UCLA is not equipped to do that, to reach those high highs, man. That athletic department, since 2019, has built up $219 million of deficit. Okay. Very poor from a financial standpoint. They are not nearly as all-in committed financially as their crosstown rival or anybody else in the Big Ten. The athletic director, Martin Germond, people think he may not have the full ability to make this hire, and 2, may just get fired anyway pretty soon. So you might be a sitting duck pretty quickly after you would take this job in terms of who your boss is, or your boss may not have been the one that actually wanted to hire you. Your peers, and now in the Big Ten, when we're talking about resources and commitment, man, it's Ohio State, USC, Penn State, Oregon. What? Good luck. Good luck. Nobody goes to the games. It's not an engaged fan base. You'll have to deal with crazy travel, which Provo to other places in the Big 12 is not exactly, that's not a cakewalk, but it's going to be worse coming from LA, going all the way to Piscataway and, traveling to road games at Maryland. the grind of that is going to be even tougher. That is not a good job, man. I mean, that is not a good job unless you are someone that just loves LA, which, I mean, there would be plenty of people out there that aspect of it is appealing to. That is not a good job at all. So I would not take it. I understand why his name is being listed there. If I were UCLA, I would love him as a candidate. Love him as a candidate. But I don't think there's any way he would take that job. Now, as for Dave Aranda, okay, Bruce Feldman had Dave Aranda listed number 2 on this, behind Danton Lynn. Now, I guess they weren't like numbered like 1, 2, but second coach mentioned, okay? Dave Aranda, here's what was said about Baylor's Dave Aranda. Quote, he's a Southern California native coaching in the Big 12 at a program with upper-level resources. Aranda is very cerebral and probably would play well in a strong academic environment. He's 33 and 31 since taking the job in 2020 and coached himself off the hot seat in Waco last year. In his second season, his team went 12-2 and finished number 5, but it's been as much down as up there. I wouldn't be shocked if he was intrigued by the thought of bringing his family back to the West Coast. He grew up a UCLA fan and used to take his wife to games. Okay. Yeah, let's talk restarting the clock, because that was mentioned by ESPN for Kalani Sitake. Hey, it's been 10 years at BYU. He might want to restart his clock. I think that's what makes this intriguing to me about Dave Aranda, not Kalani Sitake. Usually, like, you want to restart the clock when your results have been pretty stable or like at about the same level, and you feel like maybe the fans are, if you've been 8-4 for a long time, the fans aren't excited about that anymore. Then you have a 7-5 season. Like, you might want to restart your clock somewhere because people are getting antsy there. I mean, Sitake just had his best year last year. I mean, if we're taking record and the conference you were playing in, the level of competition, he's coming off of his best season. They just pulled in Ryder Lyons. Like, the star has never been brighter for him at BYU. Things have not been better. So the restarting the clock thing, I don't think that makes much sense at all. But for Dave Aranda, I mean, the guy almost got fired last year. Like, after the Colorado game, after Victory Cigar, the Hail Mary, everybody was ready to run him out of town. So, like, that makes sense to me. Saved his job for a year. Now this year they start the season with a very disappointing loss. They rebounded with a great win. But what does this year wind up being? If this is an 8-4, 7-5, say this is like a 7-5 year at Baylor. I mean, that might be, I don't know if Baylor is going to want to pull the trigger on him then, but you're certainly feeling like, I don't know, people aren't going to be thrilled with that. Now we're getting like 4 years away from winning the Big 12 and the Sugar Bowl. That's the type of guy that I would think would want to restart the clock. And if he is a guy who, as this says, like someone who has a real affinity for UCLA, grew up a UCLA fan, now that starts to make some sense. Would I love that if I were UCLA? I mean, look, I'm a guy that's always wanted to really buy into Dave Aranda. Right now, his defense is a problem. He's got a great offense. It's tough to know. I mean, I know his expertise is in defense. He's widely respected as a great defensive coordinator, but I just feel like what UCLA needs is, like, they need a Kalani Sitake more than a Dave Aranda, at least based on what those two programs are right now. So that would be my analysis on the situation. The bottom line here is, folks, anytime a major job comes open, any Power 2 job, usually you can't throw a rock without hitting a Matt Campbell reference. Matt Campbell nowhere to be found in these, even though he's been mentioned heavily for USC before, job in LA, but not this one. So we've escaped the Matt Campbell meme, at least for now. But that doesn't mean Big 12 coaches aren't being mentioned. You are always going to get the Big 12 coach mentions here. They will find a way to shoehorn in Big 12 coaches as candidates for the Power 2 jobs. So it is what it is. Great coaching in the Big 12. Should be flattering, I would think, for Kalani Sitake, but I would be pretty stunned. Dave Aranda, maybe a sneaky one to keep an eye on here. All right, appreciate all of you who are here. If you click the $ below the chat box, you can submit a super chat like my guy, Joe G, just Joe. Appreciate you being here, Joe. Joe says, hey, JLK, what's the real story on why Iowa State went to Jonesboro, Arkansas? #Reckham. Well, that's a good question, Joe. Best I can come up with for you is it was scheduled all the way back in 2014. So that's pre-Matt Campbell. That's a different Iowa State program at the time. There are other schools that have done this since 2000. It was like Missouri had gone there. I had that in my notes from the other day. They have played like 11 Power 5 teams, I think, since 2000 in Jonesboro, and they beat 4 of them. Mizzou was one of them that they had beaten. So teams have done it. It's not completely unheard of for teams at the Power 4 or at that time Power 5 level to have done it. And Iowa State was a program that was more down on its luck at the time. We're thinking like Paul Rhodes era, Iowa State here. So it makes a little bit more sense when you piece it together like that. Iowa State couldn't have known in 2014, hey, this is, you're setting your team up for a real trap spot here ahead of a bye week after all this, weird travel, playing your rivals early in the season. Real letdown, look ahead to a bye week situation. And I mean, Iowa State, I thought, kind of played like that, a little bit sluggish, but they got out of there with a win. They're fine. Anybody really criticizing that too much, I think, is crazy. Like, why? They just beat Iowa. They've beaten both of their rivals already this year. The grind of going to Ireland and coming back, you can understand how that might start to catch up to you. And then you're going to play in Jonesboro, Arkansas. There were not many people there. It just seemed like a weird atmosphere, a weird game. And they were still moving the ball. They just didn't finish drives. I mean, they were fine. But yeah, that's best I can tell. You were just in a different weight class in 2014 when you were scheduling these games 10 years ago. And I mean, Arkansas State had a decent run. Like, let's actually, curious here now. I'm spending more time on this than I should, to be honest. But I'm curious because Arkansas State's had some good teams. So this may have been at a point where it's like, well, that actually looks like it's a fairly intriguing game to schedule. Yeah, they had the 3 years before that, they had won 10, 10, and 8 games. Gus Malzahn, Hugh Freeze, Brian Harsin were the coaches there at that time. So yeah, Arkansas State had been decent. So it's not as crazy as it looks. But the crazier thing, Iowa State has a game in 2027 scheduled at Bowling Green. I think I saw. I saw Scott Docterman, who's one of the athletic writers, was saying Iowa State should get out of that and schedule K-State because that's the game or the year that game won't happen. Anyway, Joe, good question. Thank you for being here. And I appreciate your support of the channel. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. All that stuff is free. And I greatly appreciate all of you who do that. Many of you who watch these videos aren't subscribed. So please do check. If you're not, just one click, subscribing to the channel really helps. I'm talking college football from a Big 12 perspective here on this channel. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. Also, easy way to support the channel. Okay, so we're going to get that high-profile top 20 matchup we wanted next week between Utah and Texas Tech. But are either of these teams good? That's the question I come to you with today. Are either of those teams good, Utah and Texas Tech? Because I think we still have more questions than answers on both of these teams, to be completely honest. This is not a one or the other. This is not picking on Utah because they had a really, really sluggish first half at Wyoming on Saturday. I have legit questions here about both teams, all right? But kudos to both for taking care of business. Weird road trip for Utah, weird weather delay yet again for Texas Tech, and it did not matter at all, man. That offense looks so explosive right now. Baron Morton, somebody, Texas Tech fans, all of you guys who emailed me, tweeted me, commented here on the show, somebody must have clipped me saying that I worry about Baron Morton's ceiling when it comes to projecting Texas Tech to win the Big 12 because the guy looks like he's just coming straight for me with a flamethrower, right? I mean, 464 yards, 4 touchdowns on Saturday. He's got 11 touchdowns on the season already. And these are these are bombs. I was listening to him talking about all the weapons that he has after the game. I mean, he is right. They have weapons all over the place. 38-yard touchdown, 61-yard touchdown, 30-yard touchdown, 23-yard touchdown. Texas Tech has 6 touchdown passes of 30 yards or longer this season already. This is an explosive team. And everybody knows about the defensive line talent, right? Lee Hunter, David Bailey, all the transfers that they brought in on the defensive line. But watch out for what they've got going on offense, man. Virgil, Carter, Aiken. Coy Aiken, I think, might be my favorite. should be careful in making this statement, especially this early in the year. Coy Aiken is certainly one of my favorite players in the entire league right now. Love watching that guy play. Seems like he's always open. Every time I look up on the screen on Saturday, that guy is making a huge play for Texas Tech. So, yeah, Tech did it again. I mean, they just clobbered Oregon State. Oregon State scored 2 like garbage time touchdowns late in the game to make that look, I mean, not even respectable, but more respectable than it actually was. And while Oregon State's 0-3, I certainly don't, no illusions about them being good. But it's more of a pulse than what Tech saw the first 2 weeks, and we still basically just saw them rip somebody limb from limb. The question is, okay, how does that translate when you do take a massive jump up in competition next week and put it on the road and put it in altitude and put it in one of the toughest environments in the league at Rice-Eccles? Like, that's the question we have to answer about Texas Tech, man. That's what we need to know. And it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, I think it's a wonderful, perfect matchup to have this early in the season, especially because on the other side, I think there are a lot of questions there, too, that we're trying to figure out about Utah. And some of that is because of things that Utah couldn't even control this week. But that UCLA game, I mean, it is fair to raise the question. Okay, I mean, New Mexico just went in and won 35-10. So what does 43-10 really mean? So you took Devin Dampier. Well, Devin Dampier's old team without him and without the offensive coordinator, they just went in and won 35-10 at UCLA. So, like, you know, hey, still did your job. Good work. But was that good, very good, great? Or was that solid? We don't really know. I will say this about Utah. They're definitely more battle tested from like an environment standpoint, having to go play in Laramie, UCLA. I mean, I know there's like 5 people at the Rose Bowl, but going to play in Laramie, tougher atmosphere, weird type of, and that's just one of those places where like weird things happen. And I know that I don't need to tell Texas Tech fans twice about that. Laramie is just a place where you're going to get some weird games sometimes, and that always makes it dangerous. And people are keeping an eye on that first half between Utah and Wyoming, being like, okay, like you're playing with fire here, but bam, 4 straight touchdown drives. Devin Dampier's making crazy plays. The play where he just drops the ball, picks it back up, and then spins and like throws one into a tight window in the corner of the end zone. I was just like, damn, man. And Dampier, like, speaking of question marks, biggest question that I had about him, everybody referenced this stat, and I know it made you guys mad, Utah fans. I know that this made you mad. I saw it on Twitter all offseason long. Dampier had 12 touchdowns, 12 picks last year. And everybody said it's a very easy talking point. I said it myself. Legitimate question, too, but a very easy talking point for people to latch on to. Well, this kid, he was 12 touchdowns and 12 picks in the Mountain West last year. Like, what's going to happen in the Big 12 when you're moving up a level? Well, I mean, so far he has not played a Big 12 team, but so far so good at taking care of the ball. Like, Dampier's got 7 touchdowns, no picks in 3 games. And he's doing stuff like that. Like, he is still giving you a flair for the dramatic and some of the spectacular stuff. He is running the ball well. Now, can you continue to give him 13 carries at every single game? We'll see how he holds up over the course of a Big 12 season doing that. But at least early in the season, that experiment still looks like it's going pretty well. They had over 500 yards of offense. I mean, people will look at the first half box score and be like, well, what happened offensively in the first half? They were moving the ball. There were 3 missed field goals, a bunch of penalties. There were 6 penalties in the first half. Just sloppy, weren't finishing. And again, trap game, road game in Laramie before a massive matchup the next week when you already knew that Big Noon Kickoff is going to be in town for the game against Texas Tech. I'm not going to crush Utah for that, but the combo of Utah sleepwalking a bit and UCLA just, exposing themselves fully for what they are and firing the coach and all. I'm back to having a little bit more of an inquisitive attitude about Utah here, well, acknowledging that on the same side, we've got that with Texas Tech. But man, what a fantastic matchup this sets up next week. I mean, first of all, I'm thrilled for the league that it winds up being a top 20 matchup, and it's also on a week when there's not like a bunch of obvious huge games to soak up the spotlight from you. You've got one other ranked v ranked matchup, and that's Illinois and Indiana. So while it is, I mean, I'll have more to say on that in a moment. I actually think that's an awesome game, really fascinating game, not getting enough love nationally, and it's everything that makes college football great. It's also not two big brands. You're not dealing with a bunch of huge games between behemoth brands and top 5 or top 10 teams next week. So that should put a little extra shine, at least from what people are paying attention to next week, on that game in Salt Lake. So I love that for the league. And if you think about the storylines, man, it is rich with storylines for this game. Like everything I've outlined, Tech, most interesting offseason in the conference, one of the most interesting off seasons in the country, stole the spotlight in the portal. How does that look this year? Can Tech buy a championship? We'll start to find out. They're going to go up against one of the most rugged, consistent programs in the Big 12 in Utah. And Utah had the rough year last year. They bring in this new quarterback that looks dazzling, is taking care of the ball now. Defense is still basically as strong as ever. They've held all 3 of their first opponents under 230 yards. They didn't give up a score until there were under 5 minutes left in the game against Wyoming. How does all that look now when you put that together and put these teams together in a very tough environment? Texas Tech wants to go fast. Utah is going to want to be more grinded out, sort of an affair. You've got a great offensive line, defensive line matchup. Like Utah may have 2 first-round picks on its offensive line. Texas Tech has an all-star cast of characters that came in largely via the transfer portal on that defensive line. So you get that individual matchup. If you're talking about just the football heads here, man, like the nitty-gritty of what you're going to see in the trenches of this game, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait for it. So with good reason, we'll get to see that on Big Fox at 11 a.m. That should get a great treatment from the Fox broadcast, which seems to do a much better job of spotlighting these things and making it all exciting and great. Speaking of that, I said Fox does a great job of that. You did not hear me mention another network that we're going to talk about in just a moment. Okay. First, though, Pacific Northwest Ute. If you want to submit a super chat like Pacific Northwest Ute, click the $ below the chat box to do so. I appreciate everybody who does. If you can't, just like, subscribe. That really helps me as well. Also, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Pacific Northwest Ute. Some might fear the Dampier, but the Utes got to start caring for Barron. Oh, I like that. Tech fans, take that. Caring for Barron. And his 3 receivers who got 100 yards each. And the penalties and missed field goals. Yeah, that's enough to make you nervous in a close game for sure. How's that going to go down? And Utah, you certainly don't expect them to be undisciplined and getting all the penalties and that stuff. Yeah, not uncharacteristic. And now keep it in mind, Pacific Northwest Ute and everybody, if we're coming down to the wire and Utah's going to need a field goal, things may be a little bit shaky, but great quarterback matchup. I mean, that's, you can tack that onto the list, like Pacific Northwest Ute mentions there, of incredible, rich storylines about this game. Baron Morton, the guy who has stuck around forever, has battled through all these injuries to be here at this point in his career. Now they've given him a super team around him, and he looks awesome. Devin Dampier gets his chance. He gets his call up to the big leagues. They bring in his offensive coordinator, and things are going great, and he's playing incredible football through the first 3 weeks of the season. Great storyline right there, too. Love that. Okay, so as if you needed another example of this, ESPN has proven once again they do not care about the fans. They're not going to do anything thinking about the fans first. And yes, this is going to be in part a complaint about Utah and Texas Tech and the treatment or lack thereof from ESPN and specifically College GameDay. But really, if you want to branch it out big picture, it's just like, what does ESPN do anymore that's like really truly about the fans, what we want, the love of the sport, all this stuff. And that kind of goes in general. Like I think Scott Van Pelt does a good job of that. I think he really, truly, you can sense how much he loves sports when he's on there, whether it's college football or anything else. But, they give us, they just force feed us these terrible people screaming at each other, daytime talk shows to talk about LeBron and the Cowboys. And, like what is being done at ESPN these days? that is about putting the fans first. Certainly the way ESPN has handled the actual sport of college football generally is not. Conference realignment being the biggest part of that. I always reference this, but you go back to John Skipper, the former head of ESPN, being on the Dan Le Batard show at one point, asked like, hey, did you put your thumb on the scale of realignment? Like, were you guys calling the shots there? And he said, no comment. Like, they played a large role in all the realignment that's happened, which has been the worst thing for fans. Even if you're a Big Ten or an SEC fan and like you think that's great, you've lost great rivalries because of this. Like, games are not being played every single year that should be. We have all lost a lot because of conference realignment and what was done when nothing needed to be done. The sport was incredible, and it was set up to be like that in perpetuity until ESPN comes along and does that. ESPN gives us things like, the college football playoff rankings show. By the way, ESPN focusing all of its content, all of the coverage of college football around the playoff, shaping it all around the playoff narrative, which is not good. That's not a good influence on everybody. It takes emphasis away from the regular season, which is what makes college football great. The ranking shows are just one big rage baiting session. I mean, there's really no reason to do it other than to just get you tweeting and get you very angry. Some people seem to like this. I don't like that. GameDay is just like, Pat McAfee cutting WWE promos. But let's stick on GameDay here, okay? Because the options for next week to go to College GameDay, I would say your options are you have two matchups between ranked teams. You've got Indiana, Illinois, number 9 versus number 19. You've got Texas Tech and Utah, number 17 and 16. Instead, College GameDay is going to Miami. They're going to Miami Gardens to watch Miami, I'm sure, beat the crap out of Walking Dead man Billy Napier. Billy Napier's 1-2. He's lost to South Florida already. If we're doing transitive property, South Florida got decleated by Miami after beating Florida. Could it be a competitive game? Sure. ESPN, I'm sure, would tell me, well, Miami's a great story right now. Some people think they're the best team in the country the way that they're playing at the moment. We're going to go take the story there. No, what you're doing is you're taking an SEC team. You're taking what is convenient to you based on your business interests here, right? Okay. And I am just as frustrated by this about the fact that they're not going to Indiana, Illinois, as I am the fact that they're not going to Salt Lake City here. Like, Indiana, Illinois is an awesome story. That is great. Like, those two schools were two of the better stories in college football last year. Illinois has been a terrible football program. There's been no juice, pun somewhat intended from back in the Juice Williams days. There's been no juice with that program in forever. It has some now with Brett Bielema, who, by the way, is a fun personality himself. Indiana comes out of nowhere. Again, I don't know how I can work an Antoine Randall L pun into that one, but they haven't been relevant since like Antoine Randall L was hanging out there. They all of a sudden have a great season last year where they turn into this big college football playoff narrative commentary about whether or not they should have been in. You get those two teams matching up. They're ranked in the top 20. Kurt Cignetti is another guy that is he's a walking quote. That guy's a walking rage baiter himself with anything he's going to say. He's not afraid to take shots at other leagues. There's so much there. There's so much there. And that's, we love this about college football. People who love the sport love this about college football, that you have matchups like this. It doesn't have to always be LSU and Alabama, man. Indiana, Illinois popping up and being great. What is the one season that you hear about all the time in college football still? It's 2007. People romanticize about the 2007 season because that's the year that deep into the season you had like Kansas, Missouri, South Florida, Rutgers, all those teams in the top 10. And it was great and people loved it and there were upsets everywhere. And like, we love that about college football. So highlight it. Do that part of the sport justice. Go to that game. But, well, ESPN they're not a part of the Big Ten TV deal now. So, why do that when we can go watch 1-2 Florida? Thankfully not ranked, I guess. I don't know. I hope not, with Notre Dame being ranked at 0-2. Why not go watch 1-2 Florida get drilled by Miami? Why not do that? You know, because we haven't done the Miami story enough times thinking, oh, the U is back, the U is back, the U is back. And yet Miami still has not won the ACC since entering the conference. Like, it's maddening. It's very annoying. Of course, Salt Lake City would have been a great answer too. They have not been averse to covering the same game before. If it were Ohio State, Michigan, you know where they would be. Both places would be there. Okay. You could go be at the same place and a place where you know people are going to show up. It'll be an awesome environment. Can you imagine Salt Lake, like Utah fans, if they came to that game? People will be there. People would be fired up. It would be awesome. And yet we're going to go to Miami. Miami. How many Miami fans are going to show up to that? Miami, a program that consistently fills it up and definitely never has empty NFL stadiums that are about 25% full to go watch a team full of very talented players not meet expectations. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It would be way more fun to... The Indiana-Illinois thing is like Kansas. That Kansas-TCU game a couple of years ago drew great ratings. People loved it because that's a place where you'd never think game days go in there. You highlight that story and what's happening, and it's not going to happen with Indiana, Illinois. It's not going to happen with Texas Tech, Utah. It's ESPN doing its ESPN thing, and it just, I don't know, man. It's disheartening because it makes me feel like it just everything continues to trend toward, hey, this is going to be AFC, NFC, and we've got our side. You've got your side. Fox, you take the AFC. ESPN, we got the NFC, so we'll take the best game here. It just feels like that's what they want all this to be and where it's going. And I just hate it. I just hate it. I hate it. But it is what it is. And that's what we got. That's what we're stuck with. Alan, appreciate you being here, Alan. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to be like Alan, you can click the $ below the chat box to submit a super chat. Alan says, John, kudos, great show. Thank you, Alan. Saw Wisconsin rumors, but believe Travis Goff will do what it takes to keep Lance Leipold at KU. Still optimistic for Jayhawk 10-win season and Sunflower Showdown. Alan, I'm going to tell you right now, I am not optimistic for the Sunflower Showdown, my friend. I am not looking forward to October 25th. I do not think that is going to be a fun day for K-State fans at all. I've delivered the message like 3 times already. You can go watch the Fremont podcast or my live stream about the K-State Arizona game the other night if you want this. But I've already given my, get your affairs in order speech to K-State fans for what's going to happen on October 25th. Wisconsin would be, maybe like the one job that would make me nervous if I were a Kansas fan because of Lance Leipold's obvious ties there. I think the more comforting thing for me right now, if I were a Kansas fan, would just be, I don't know that Wisconsin's going to have the appetite to pay Luke Fickell's buyout. But yeah, Saturday had to probably make you a little bit more nervous if you're a Kansas fan because Alabama was all over Wisconsin. They did not have a whole lot going on Saturday. But hey, if you end the streak and it's done at Sweet 16 this year, Alan, I will be happy for you, my friend. I will at least be happy for you to get to enjoy that. Thank you for your support of the channel, as always. Great to see you. Great to see you. Great to see you. David, what does TCU have to do to get taken seriously? David, I feel like you've asked a similar form of this question the last few weeks. I don't know if this is directed personally at me or just in general. It was 42-21, right, on Saturday. Look, the short answer is go beat SMU this week. That'll help a lot. North Carolina it's been a minute, right, since that happened. Only played 2 games. The other wins over Abilene Christian. Go beat SMU and beat Arizona State each of the next 2 weeks. That'll move the needle. That'll move the needle a lot. Then you got Colorado, K-State, Baylor, West Virginia. You could really start peeling off some wins there if you're TCU. Just keep winning. Okay, the AP poll. All right, yeah, just keep winning. Just keep winning. I understand the frustration, but things will take care of themselves. I think if you keep going here, you also, it would help if North Carolina, if that winds up aging well somehow. I don't know if that's going to. But if North Carolina can somehow wind up aging well, maybe that helps you further on down the road. I see North Carolina, just stomped the Richmond Spiders. So good for North Carolina. But that's probably it. You just got to keep winning games. That schedule doesn't look quite as daunting as maybe it did at the beginning of the year. But I say that, I mean, 3 of the next 5 games are SMU, Arizona State, Baylor. So those are all teams that at least have a pretty solid pulse to them right now. I know people would point out flaws in all of their resumes and what they are as teams at the moment, but you just keep ripping off dubs. Keep ripping off dubs. Abilene Christian wasn't going to move the needle probably for anybody. Fair or unfair? You know, I'm not saying if this were Alabama with the same resume, what would they be ranked? I mean, we could do that all day till the cows come home, and you'd be making good points. Unfortunately, I just think that is what it is, David. I think that is what it is. Everybody seems to have grievances with the AP poll right now. I saw some Arizona fans grumbling about it. Houston did get 5 votes in the coaches poll, so I'm happy for Houston on that front. And look, if we're being frank here, of those 2 teams, well, look, obviously, I think TCU certainly deserves to be in the top 25. Houston deserves some votes. I think Houston deserves to be in that group of others receiving votes right now. Impressive the way that they put their foot on the throat of Colorado in the second half. I'm optimistic about the way Connor Wegman is playing and gaining some confidence and seeing the typical hallmarks of a Willie Fritz defense, even with a new defensive coordinator. Arizona, I don't know. I got to be honest. And we were getting roasted in the YouTube comments for the 3-ball post-game video that Cole and I did after the game. I mean, I wouldn't change anything. That was not heat of the moment. I wouldn't change anything I said about Arizona, and it's not meant to be mean or demean or anything like that. I think Arizona should be enjoying the hell out of this. You're 3-0, man. Enjoy it. But I think anybody who watched that game is not coming away particularly impressed with Arizona, but they are better than they were last year. They kind of tried to hand that game to K-State on a silver platter, and K-State, whose resume would reflect them being one of the bottom 5 Power 4 teams in the country right now, just absolutely refused to take it. So Arizona's got a chance to improve, just like I said on the live stream the other day. They've got a chance to improve and get better, but for right now, and no, I do not think that Arizona looks like a top 25 team to me, but could be wrong. Could be wrong. We'll see. All right, so I've got to throw a bone to our friends in Morgantown, West Virginia. Before I do that, please do subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of people in here from the YouTube audience. So please do like and subscribe. Subscribing really, really helps. If you're unsure of whether or not you're subscribed, just double check. Just double check. So to me, there were 2 places that showed more than any other on Saturday why college football is the best sport on earth. One of them was Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, Georgia Tech. The scene there was great. But the other one was Morgantown, West Virginia. Okay? If you're not paying attention to Rich Rod and what's happening there, you need to be. And above all else, it's just a great moment of like the Americana that makes college football great. Like college football's version of Americana. That's what we had in Morgantown for that game. Backyard brawl, man. You guys know I love it. It's everything we love about college sports. 2 rivals that just hate each other. You've got the quirky sayings about each other. You've got the traditions of Sweet Caroline playing the song. It's awesome. I literally, right before I came on the show today, was finishing up some prep, and I found a video of Sweet Caroline from the end of the game, which the second I saw that, I was like, well, I'm watching that. I can't imagine how loud that was. It was great. Obviously, I'm not trying to get demonetized here on YouTube, okay? YouTube, I'm not going to say it, but you all know what I mean when I say Sweet Caroline there. Regional rivals, close games. This rivalry feels like it's always like the underdogs always got a chance. There are goofy things happening. Man, it's awesome. And in this one, we had a couple of comebacks, right? Like each side trailed by 10 at one point in the game. It goes to overtime, and West Virginia wins in front of like just a totally bonkers crowd. And look, takeaways on West Virginia. they've got Rich Rod toughness in them, it would appear. And that, like, toughness and resiliency, just these hallmarks of things that I never really felt about Neil Brown's teams and Neil Brown's program at West Virginia. They always just felt more flimsy, hollow, boring, frankly. I mean, Zach Alley's defense is enough to be excited about, for one thing. And maybe that's a piece of why it just feels to me like, oh man, well, that's like a really tough, resilient team, because they've got a defense that can play, man. They got a defense that can play. Zach Alley is earning that 7-figure salary, for sure, with what he's doing there, and kept him in the game throughout. Obviously, Pitt gets back into it in the second half, but West Virginia's offense was stalling out a little bit there and didn't do as much in the first half as certainly they could have to help support that defense. But the defense held up very, very nicely. And, when you combine how solid the defense is with, like, Nico coming back in the game and winning it at the end after floundering around in the first half. Now, I still would not have taken him out if I were Rich Rod. And I mean, I think eventually was proven right. I don't know. You got 1 touchdown drive, 2 picks, and maybe a revitalized, more motivated Nico by the time he came back in the game. We could debate that. But the fact that he was able to rebound from getting, basically benched. I know they've kind of been shuffling quarterbacks in and out already, but you're more or less getting benched in the rivalry game. And then you go from controlling. West Virginia really did kind of control that for like 2.5 quarters, then completely lost control. And then you come back cool, calm, and collected and deliver the win in overtime. That drive to get it to overtime, like, ballsy from Nico and company. I think West Virginia has found its quarterback. I would think it has to be Nico now. West Virginia looks like they've found a pretty good running back in Ty Edwards, when you're still mourning the loss of Jaheim White, which sucks and it's terrible. But Ty Edwards goes for $141 and 3 touchdowns. That guy looked like the real deal. There's some really exciting things to build on here for Rich Rod the rest of the year. And just such a big swing in what you'd be feeling about West Virginia's season, depending on what happened in that game. If all of a sudden you're 1-2 and you had the bitter disappointment of losing at Ohio, and now you lose the game to Pitt, especially the way it was going, where it was like you're in control and then you get, at least it feels like you have somewhat control on the game, and then you get 2 terrible picks. The way that would have been lost, there would have been a lot of questions about the management of the quarterbacks and all that. And it just, you could see things start to spiral real quick. But now you're like, hey, look, blip on the radar. Tough to lose that game at Ohio. That's not fun. Nobody likes it. But you bounce back immediately after that, after losing your best offensive skill player, one of your other best offensive skill players for the year. And you said, well, to hell with it. Let's just go win the game. Let's beat our arch rival, who is a favorite, who is definitely in a more stable spot in the program under Pat Narduzzi, who I'll give Pat Narduzzi credit. He is a great heel for that rivalry. Pat Narduzzi is an awesome heel. He's like always finding a way to take some subtle dig or shot at West Virginia, like the thing about the scheduling beforehand. And he's a great heel. Looks the part too. And but no, man, you come back and you get him, you get those guys. It just, all of it felt like it encompassed to me. It's like this is a different deal than what Neil Brown had going. I don't know how high the highs will ultimately be with Rich Rod, what the ceiling is there. I don't know, but it sure seems like it's going to be higher, and it sure seems like the floor is higher right now based on the way West Virginia won that game. And I love to see it. I love to see it for West Virginia and the fan base, because West Virginia fans could speak to this better than I could, certainly. But there's something different about when you have like renewed optimism about the program based on the coach you have, and you combine that with like a huge win. It's different than, like Neil Brown beat West Virginia. He beat Oklahoma at one point, right? But just, there was some apathy that had set in with Neil Brown. He never really seemed to have like a full grip on the fan base in terms of excitement, the way that people bought in on Rich Rod right now. So when you have like full buy-in from the fan base on new coach, optimism, where this is going long term, and then you throw a huge win like this on top of it where everybody is there. The home atmosphere is great. You're like reminded of the glory days of that atmosphere. That's special, and that's something different. And it feels like West Virginia hasn't had that in a while. It's been a while since everybody's been like united on board with that. I'm not a good enough West Virginia historian to tell you when the last win would have been that really did feel like that. I assume back to the Dana Holgerson days and some of those teams, like a Will Greer team, maybe. But that was my feeling there. And my reference points tend to be more K-State centric. What it reminded me of was Chris Kleiman's first year in 2019. Like there was just such a malaise about K-State football for like the last couple years of Snyder 2.0, especially the last year. It was dragging and people were frustrated and a little checked out in some ways. Chris Kleiman comes in and everybody's like, okay, like I can buy into this. This seems good. Things are trending in the right direction. Mississippi State was one game that was kind of like that early in the year. They won at Mississippi State, but when they beat Oklahoma later that year, you're like, oh, we might win 9 games this first year. And we just beat Lincoln Riley and top 5 Oklahoma on national TV here. This feels good. Like this feels great. We're all in full throat support and buying in and embracing this. Those wins are fun. Those wins are really fun. And West Virginia deserves that. Like after going through kind of a milquetoast era with Neil Brown, who seems like a really nice guy. I don't say that to try and run him into the ground too much, but I do think it was sort of the reality of what that program was. West Virginia's got more life. There is more juice in Morgantown, and I'm happy for you guys. I have seen that atmosphere when it's totally rocking, at least for the beginning of the game. I'm sorry, West Virginia fans. This is my reference point of it being a great atmosphere. But I was there in 2012 for the K-State game, okay, which was a huge game at the time. And at the beginning of that game, man, it was loud. That was an electric atmosphere. It changed rather quickly because of how the game went, but that was an electric atmosphere. And so I know how good that can be. And that can be a consistently really good environment. Rich Rod's going to keep doing stuff like this. So, yeah, love to see that. Love to see that. Let's see. Do we have any more super chats? It's buzzer beater time. If you got anything, I don't think we do. So I think with that, I'm probably going to sign off here, guys. Actually, Wet Blanket brings up a good point here. Wet Blanket, you are right. Colin Klein did call a very good game last night. Where's my guy Cole Manbeck's stat? Colin Klein, the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M, by the way, who got a really exciting win at Notre Dame. I believe I retweeted that from Cole. He had a good stat about what that was for Colin Klein. Oh, my Angry Chiefs tweets. Here we go. The 41 points by Texas A&M last night, the most Marcus Freeman's team has allowed in his 45 games as Notre Dame's head coach. Yeah, pretty good from Colin Klein. That guy, I don't think he's going to be in College Station next year. He is going to get a Power 4 job somewhere. Will it be in Manhattan or will it be somewhere else? We'll see. Tricky situation that K-State may find itself in here. Because if he gets out of your reach and he's at a Power 4 job, especially if it's a Power 2 job that's not at your school, that may be the football equivalent of the Brad Underwood situation where he's never coming. Now, I'm not trying to run Chris Kleiman out of town, but there have always been talks that he may not be super long for this new college football environment that we are in right now. That's going to be a lot, especially if this season keeps going the way that it's going in Manhattan. That's going to be a lot of the conversation is where does this all end? What happens here? And are we going to miss the boat on Colin Klein? Now, is it a surefire thing that Colin Klein is a great coach? A great head coach? We know he's a great coordinator. I think that much has been established. Is he a great head coach? We don't know. But he's the type of guy that would stay long-term if he is good. And that just feels like one that if the opportunity is there, you'd be pretty sick to your stomach if you missed the boat on that. So yes, we are paying close attention to that in Manhattan, Wet Blanket. We are paying close attention to that in Manhattan because frankly, I mean, look, I'll step on the soapbox a little bit here, just based on some of what I'm hearing around K-State and what I'm picking up. Like just the vibe of what is going on right now. Like, people are really upset, and I think that has taken some by surprise. Just how upset people are. Obviously, they know no one's going to be happy about 1-3, but going back to last year, I mean, they start 7-1 and then lose 3 of the last 4 in the regular season, and just some awful performances, like some really bad games. They win the bowl game after an awful first half, and then you start this year 1-3 when, let's be honest, you should be 0-4. Like, this team should be 0-4. They should have lost to North Dakota, and you can't do that and expect anybody to be excited. It's the worst start for K-State football since 1989. K-State is 3-6 in its last 9 games, 4-13 against the spread since last season. So it's like, a lot of these losses have been games where you are favored, you're expected to win, and they look horrible. They're putting up 1.86 points per drive. That's the worst since 2009. That 2009 team was Bill Snyder's first back when they had one shoulder Grant Gregory playing quarterback and Carson Kaufman. I mean, nothing against those guys, but that was not a good offense. It's not a good offense. And this is a team that has all sorts of talent. And when you have that type of talent and that type of investment from donors that didn't used to be there, because they're putting more in on a regular annual basis to the team because of that. And the fans know that not only is this a more wide open Big 12, but it's a new era where there's a constant existential threat of what your future is going to be like. And you can't be slipping up and having big gaps in your program as 2030 approaches, when the next breaking point of whether it will be realignment within conferences or a super league, you're too close to that to be screwing this up. And people feel that stress, man. People feel that stress. This is different. Okay. It was in 2004. If you want to be surprised that fans are getting super upset about a bad season and like calling for crazy things, I mean, first of all, it's going to happen because it's 2025 and that's how people are in general. But it's a different environment now. You had more security in 2004. We were still 6 years away from the Nebraska, Texas A&M, Colorado, all that stuff. It's a different environment now. There is a legit existential threat, and you've got to be ready to meet the moment. And you just can't have a big 3-year gap in your program. That's why UCLA and Virginia Tech fired their coaches today in week 3, because they know they got to be first on the scene to jump in on the next guy. Maybe that is a Colin Klein. Like, they're trying to get first in line for that because they know now is not the time. There is not time to mess around with this. And so it's a little frustrating to me that it seems to be like there's some surprise from some folks that people would be this upset by it. I mean, and take away the existential stuff that I just said, which matters the most here, because you could very easily go look at what Oregon State and Washington State have done so far this year in football, just like a year plus removed from becoming what K-State absolutely could if the right dominoes fall. North Texas beat Washington State 59-10 on Saturday. Okay? That's what people fear could happen. And it's too far off. Look at what this coaching staff has accomplished before. Man, that doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to stay at this level. You need to put yourself in the best possible position to do that. And look, I'll be honest, the way that this team has looked the last 3 weeks, I'm not so sure North Texas couldn't beat them 59-10. It's looked that bad. Like, that's the other thing. It's not just that they're losing games. It's who they're losing to and how they look doing it. It looks as bad as any product that a K-State football fan has seen. We kept talking in the group chat, like, it looks like a Ron Prince team at times on Saturday. But even beyond that, like, the record speaks for itself. They have not been this since 1989. The year I was born, the year Bill Snyder showed up in Manhattan. It's bad. And it's with a talented roster that is making a lot of money, that has been paid for by fans. I would hope that message could get through to the people that it needs to get through to. And it's not that look, I'm not even the guy that's out here saying fire everybody. But if you don't understand why fans are a little bit more on edge, and then, yeah, throw in the Colin Klein stuff too. You've got your native son sitting there on the precipice of getting a Power 4 job. He's killing it as an offensive coordinator in the SEC. And that's a guy that, like, if he passes, you're going to hear about that. Like, you will hear about that forever. If he goes on to be a great coach somewhere else, and you get stuck in a weird, awkward situation here where the program's floundering, there is every reason for the fans to be as upset and nervous and anxious as they are right now. You're just going to have to deal with that and understand that and meet the moment. Please meet the moment, K-State. That's all. That is my hope and plea. This was unplanned. I did not plan for this to happen here, but meet the moment. Whatever that means, however it's going to work out, I just need everybody in power to understand the sense of urgency that is required. Okay? There is an incredible sense of urgency that is required here. Your peers at the University of Kansas are quite motivated these days. Okay? Travis Goff is a very dynamic, aggressive athletic director who totally understands the moment right now for Kansas, which is keep yourself at the highest level. And they know they've got at least a puncher's chance at some point at the Big Ten or SEC or whatever it's going to be. And he has done everything to move the needle. Got the stadium built, got a $300 million donation, has kept Lance Leipold locked down. Your direct competition understands the moment, and K-State fans see that too. Direct competition there understands and is meeting the moment. Iowa State financially, we'll see, but right now they have the best combination of a football and men's basketball coach in the conference. And guess what? They beat you again to start the year in a trip that you planned and took away a home game to go play. So yeah, the fans are a little upset. The fans are a little upset right now, and that's understandable. So just meet the moment, please. Meet the moment. All right. Have the urgency that's needed at a critical point in K-State athletics. All right. I'll get out of here on that. Thank you for letting me step up on the soapbox for you right there. And we'll see you later, everybody. Take care. Like the video, subscribe. We got a bunch of people in here by the time I finish that. Like, subscribe, do all those great things, and I will talk to you soon.